is arguably one of the darker movies, I would say, this week, so strap in. What's up, everyone? Today is day 2 of Disturbing Horror Movie Week, and we are talking about The House That Jack Built from 2018, directed by one of my faves, Lars von Trier. And this one, I really wanted to make sure I had it in this week. I just feel like it's one of the more visceral movies, if you will, that we'll talk about. It just feels like it feels like taboo with some of the things, and I love it. I love stuff like that. That's why I decided to do this week of reviews. So like I mentioned, today we are doing a whole review. I've got quite a lot to talk about, so if you enjoyed, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and let's talk about The House That Jack Built. The story follows Jack, a highly intelligent serial killer, over the course of 12 years and depicts the murders that really develop his inner madman. And as you follow the story, it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into shit. I don't know how else to put it because, like, it's dark. This premiered in May 2018 at Cannes, and it's reported that, including like reporters and just moviegoers alone, that more than 100 people either walked out or had an adverse reaction to this movie, but it did get a 6-minute standing ovation. Get that, Brendan Fraser. I feel like people are a little, I don't know, once you get through it and you see the art, it just, there's one specific scene that I posted on my Instagram, and it's just a beautiful, it's like a reprieve moment in the movie. It's just a shot, and I feel like if you just wait until then, like, it rewards you with beauty, and Lars really gives you a gut punch before he rewards you with his films. So yeah, I feel like the ovation was deserved. This was originally announced as an 8-part miniseries, and I don't think I would have enjoyed it as a miniseries because it's such a deep and dark story. It just needs to be like that 2.5-hour movie. Like, it just, you gotta watch it all, you have to digest it all at once. I don't need it split up into episodes, you know, it's just a straightforward thing. And I get it, but like, no. When The House That Jack Built was announced as Lars von Trier's next theatrical release, he did the announcement in a Facebook video, a David Bowie themed Facebook video, and it really makes sense when you watch the movie because the song Fame is like sprinkled throughout. Essentially, you hear one full song over the course of 2.5 hours, and it's worth it because every time it kicks on, you're like, here we go again. I just love David Bowie, so that was a treat in this movie. The filming was split in 2 halves to allow for editing in between. It's probably more of a difficult, there's a lot going into it, but in my head I'm like, maybe the editors needed a break. There's a lot going on. Kirsten Dunst was offered a role in this film, but she declined, and she did star in Nymphomania, or no, Jesus Christ, imagine. She starred in Melancholia with Alexander Skarsgård, which is part of Lars von Trier's Depression trilogy. Big fan. It is said that it's necessary to the film for Lars von Trier to have all of the violence, the graphic violence. It's the idea that things in movie require excuses, and bad things happen and bad people exist, and it's better to make the audience fearful through the truth. And considering that Jack is based on so many serial killers that have already existed, it makes the story feel more based in truth. Until you get to the epilogue, then it just feels like, what's going on there? But like I mentioned, let's talk about the serial killers that Jack is an amalgamation of, if you will. There's a scene where, we'll get to all of this, but there's a breast removal scene a la Jack the Ripper. There is police returning a victim back to the killer, Jeffrey Dahmer. We see Jack faking an injury to seem harmless, just like Ted Bundy, and keeping the bodies in the freezer, which is said to be like Greg Kuklinski, but I feel like that could also be a Gary Heidnik situation, so take that with a grain of salt there, because there's also lots that he could also be based on. On a second watch, I feel like knowing that and watching it, I was like, oh, this one did this, this one did this. So I'm going to try to, as quickly as possible, the full spoilers ahead. If you do not want to spoil this movie, skip ahead, but if you would like me to break the movie down and give you a little play-by-play of each incident, stick around. And this movie is built up of 5 incidents, an unfortunate one in the middle, which was when I was a little nervous to bring onto YouTube, but other creators have talked about it, so why not? But there is an epilogue that follows, and I feel like once you get there, you really have to suspend your disbelief. So the first incident, starring Uma Thurman, an awesome one, because it really sets the tone for what's to come. Jack encounters a woman on the side of the road, and he agrees to take her to a blacksmith to get a car jack. Her car is unfortunately broken down, and this woman, Uma Thurman, in this movie is just absolutely insufferable. And I don't know if they did that on purpose to like give him a motive, but she's a pretty bad. On the way, she says he looks like a serial killer and absolutely berates him. When he brings her back to the car, the newly repaired car jack breaks, and she requests him to bring her back to the blacksmith, and on the way, she insults him even further by saying he's actually too much of a wimp to kill anyone. Rightfully offended. He's a serial killer. He bashes her head in with a tire jack and kills her. He then brings her body to a freezer and stores it, and this is located in a factory building that Jack bought from an old pizzeria. So moving on to the second incident. That one was quick, but this one takes a little more time. We see Jack impersonating a couple of occupations. He starts off by saying that he is a policeman, moves on to being an insurance broker, just trying to offer this woman a extension on her pension, or like a more of an increase on her pension. And as any older woman who is not prone to who is not aware of the times, you know, she goes along with it. And this woman is named Claire, and she is an unsuspecting widow, which makes it a little sadder, you know. Jack unfortunately stabs and strangles her, and after cleaning, he puts her body in the back of his car. Instead of immediately leaving, his OCD compels him to clean the crime scene incessantly and almost gets caught by a suspicious officer. Jack ties Claire's body to the back of his van and drives off, leaving a blood trail. It rains and washes away the blood trail, and Jack takes this as divine intervention and that God must be on his side. Jack takes the corpse to the freezer and declares himself quote-unquote Mr. Sophistication, which is so cringe. And he begins sending letters to the media, including his moniker. He develops a fetish for photographing his victims' corpses and begins acting more reckless as his OCD diminishes. And he does things such as hitting an old woman with his van. But sending letters to the police, like with his little symbol, like very Zodiac killer. There's just so many things that he's just a big combination of shit. So the third incident is called The Family, and this is the one that I admittedly enjoy the most because I'm sick, but I enjoy this scene, this segment here, because usually filmmakers will stop the camera or cut the camera, switch to a different scene when you know that something bad is going to happen. And this movie, you just see the most unfortunate events of all, or just unravel in front of you, and you can't do anything to stop it because he's not taking the camera away. He's making you watch these horrific murders, and I feel like a lot of filmmakers don't want to do that because of the controversy behind all that stuff. And you can't kill kids, and you can't, well, I'm sorry, Lars von Trier did it, and it's dark. So in this incident, Jack has a girlfriend who has 2 children, 2 unfortunate children. That's why we don't have kids, that's why we don't meet new people. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Ashley has a list of things you don't do. Kids and new people, no. So Jack brings his then girlfriend and 2 sons on a hunting trip. And if you meet there's number 3. Don't go on a hunting trip with someone you just started dating. Do not bring your kids on a hunting trip. Like, don't do it. There's so many red flags. You know, there's just so many red flags in the world. We just gotta be aware at all times. So let's breeze through this real fast. Jack shoots both children in the head with a rifle. And it happens so fast, and it's such a harrowing scene. Because like I said, it's just, you are in that POV and you're watching these kids be slaughtered, and it's dark. And I'll say that I've said that so, can we have a counter going of how many times Ashley has said it's dark? But anyways, he then forces the mother of the children to have a picnic with their bodies. Jack then heads up to the hunting post and lets the mother of the children, his then girlfriend, get a head start before he hunts her. She lets herself get shot by Jack, and he then sets up the one boy to be smiling and waving, you know, as his body stiffens. And, you know, I'm just gonna, this is as far as I'm gonna go there, because I bet you YouTube is gonna hate me talking about this, but I think I've shown enough and talked about enough. You guys can understand what happens here. We'll move on to some more dark stuff, because this movie, like I said, it's just an amalgamation of shit. The 4th incident, and this one is actually starring this little segment, Riley Keough. And she plays his next girlfriend, a woman named Jacqueline, but he calls her Simple because she is not the sharpest tool in the shed. She's also what seems to be possibly a sex worker. Jack gets drunk and confesses he killed 60 people, and she doesn't believe him. He then marks red circles around her breasts with a marker, and she becomes afraid, and I mean, obviously, as you would, run to a police officer. But this is when the cop suspects that she might be drinking, and this might just be a couple in a heated argument, and she gets returned to Jack, just like Jeffrey Dahmer and that poor Conorak. So as she is returned, there's marks. He uses those marks to chop off her boobs. There's no nice way to say that. There's no, I could tiptoe, there's no nice way to say it. It happens. So then, as the sick person he is, he takes one breast and sticks it to the window of a cop car, and then makes a wallet out of the second. You know, very Ed Gein. So moving on to the 5th and final incident, which just feels like a lot. And I'm going to really condense this because a lot happens here. But Jack has 6 men detained in a freezer, obviously. We've heard a lot about this freezer up till now. He intends on killing them with one single bullet, a Full Metal Jacket bullet, and he is very fixated on this Full Metal Jacket bullet. It seems like the OCD is coming back a little bit. He's very one-track minded. He has a mission. He's got to get it. It has to be perfect. He realizes his ammo has been mislabeled, and then goes on a little bit of a rampage, if you will, to retrieve the Full Metal Jacket bullet. He returns and needs more room to focus the scope of his rifle, and unseals a door inside the freezer, revealing bodies upon bodies. And of course he would have a hidden room. That's disgusting. But inside the freezer, he meets Verge, who tells Jack he's been observing him throughout his life, and reminds him that he's never built the house that he's intended to, even though he's tried so many times in between murders. In the freezer, Jack arranges the frozen corpses he's collected into the shape of a house. Because what else are you gonna do with them? They're frozen. You're gonna put them on display. So, like, what goes through your mind? Tell me. You guys can't get the sarcasm. Like, the police show up and break in, but Jack enters his quote-unquote house and follows Verge into a hole in the floor, and they enter hell, where we move into the epilogue. And this is another one that I'm going to greatly condense because the scene just kind of drags for a while at the end, but I want to give it to you as short and sweet as possible to wrap up this movie, this amalgamation of shit. As the two, Verge and Jack, enter the 9th circle of hell, long story short, Verge points a way out and Jack attempts to leave against Verge's advice, and plummets to his death. And that's where we wrap it up. He gets the death, and he gets what he deserves. And he goes into a fiery pit of hell. And it's fine, because that's what people who, you know, kill women and children and people get. So I know that was a lot, but I just want to wrap this up by like talking about why I specifically like went out of my way to like base this whole week on choosing this movie. This is an actual, like, it feels like a first-hand look at how killers operate and what preparation and what disturbing factors and things just lead to them getting out of control and losing control, and we're really just given a front row seat to a viewing of how killers operate, and it's scary and it pulls no punches whatsoever, and there's a child screaming that's horrible, but absolutely nobody is safe in this movie. Not the kids, not anybody, not any single person. Like, he's after, there were just 6 random guys in a freezer that he was about to kill. Like, nobody is safe, and I don't even think he's safe, because the thoughts that were going on, just so much, it's like he was trapped, and trapped by compulsions, trapped by everything, and it's just so much that makes a person tick and combust, and it's scary. So that's where we're going to end for today's video. Tomorrow's video is 3 Extremes, an anthology that I've been meaning to get to for quite a while. So stick around for that, and I will see you tomorrow. Sayonara, Spooky Fam.